Ladies and gentlemen, we've now got Greenlanders coming out and admitting that they want to be a part of the United States. They want to join the US. There's several young men here. They're MAGA. There's only 50,000 people, 57,000, something like that in the country. But they're coming out and they're saying, we don't like Denmark. They haven't helped us at all. They've been really mean to Trump. They've been so unprofessional, and just this is just not how we conduct business here when we talk to world leaders. We don't use the kind of verbiage that Denmark was using, and now Denmark is throwing a fit and lying about Trump, saying that it was Putin who told Trump to buy Greenland or acquire it, whatever you want to say, because Denmark knows they're about to get screwed out of everything. So now they're trying to do what liberals do, and I would assume that Denmark probably asked liberals within America, what do you do? Well, you always blame Russia. Just say Trump is obsessed with Russia and in bed with Putin, and that's exactly what they've done. It's the same playbook. But take a look at this. Greenlanders' message to President Trump: buy Greenland, no more Danish. And look, I mean, there's been polls that are reputable that say, yeah, it's about 70% want to be part of the United States. And so that just blows up every Dane's idea of, oh, they don't want to join you. We're going to go over some other things here, but like, take a look at this. Justin, Denmark's intelligence, their intelligence accuses Russia of giving U.S. President-elect Trump the idea to buy Greenland. And so this is just, you're just lacking the context of this entire thing. Trump originally wanted to buy it. Why? Think about it. If Putin and Russia don't like NATO, the United States is a part of NATO, why would Putin want NATO to get stronger? And because the United States is the number one biggest player, and they can actually extract the natural resources from there. So you're just making the U.S. even stronger. They're an adversary. This makes no sense. Trump originally said he wanted to buy the country back in 2019. This isn't like this new thing that's come up. This has been going on for 4 or 5 years now, maybe even longer, to where Trump has wanted to buy Greenland. So this makes no sense. They're just lying. They probably asked liberals in America, Denmark did, because all these European countries are far left. They're like, well, what do we say about Trump that's bad? Well, just blame it on Russia. And so that's what they're trying to do. And it's not going to work. I mean, nobody buys this. This is where, I mean, Trump's been wanting to buy this country. Why would Putin, unless Putin was going to work out some type of separate agreement with Trump to where Trump leaves NATO, which I know some people think is going to happen. It seems like it's not going to happen. I think Trump's just going to want the NATO countries to pay more for military, just like what happened in his first term. But unless something like that happens to where they have a separate military agreement, why would Putin want the United States and by default NATO to get more strong? Because the resources in Greenland cannot be utilized properly because there's not enough investment from Denmark. They don't have the economy to do it. The United States does. So that's why it makes sense for the United States, let alone all of those areas, all of the precious metals, all the rare earths that are used for car batteries and smartphones that China right now has a lot of, and they've got the monopoly on them. The United States is about to have access to all of that. And Denmark is pissed because they're about to get screwed out of this entire thing. And they should have seen this coming, and they should have sold when they could have gotten $30 or $40 billion. Now they can't. And so now they want to make up lies about Trump being in bed with Putin. And this just is another liberal narrative that it's a liberal talking point. It is what it is. But this is total crap. This is something that Trump's been wanting to do now for at least 4 or 5 years. He wanted to do it in his first term. He wants to do it now. It's not like Putin randomly came to him 2 weeks after he won the election and said, go buy Greenland. I had done a video back in the summer because I knew Trump was going to revitalize the plan. I didn't know about the Panama Canal. By the way, that's another thing. People say, well, he wants to annex Panama. No, he doesn't. That's not true at all. He wants the canal zone, which the United States controlled back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and then the United States in 77 ended up giving it up. It was partially owned by Panama in the United States, and then in 99, the United States lost all of the canal. So he wants just the canal back. So let's get it right. This is what's going on here. And if you've got the citizens coming out and wanting this, like, look at this. Here comes the New York Times. Greenland to Trump, not for sale, but let's talk business. Well, this is how negotiations start. Greenland is for sale. They just want a certain thing from. Remember, I explained this yesterday. Greenland, they're not going to come out and say, please save us, U.S. They have no leverage then. So of course they're going to say, they're going to play hard to get, just like a girl playing hard to get. They play hard to get, like, no, we're not for sale. You need to make us a great offer and then we'll do it, and stuff like that. So that's what I think is really going on here. But even like some of these polls suggesting it's 50-50, half the population wants to join the US, the other half doesn't. Even if it's like 35% wants to join, this is before any bribes by the US to where they could bribe the citizens with money, or say, listen, we're going to help you with infrastructure improvements. But the thing is, we need to own the territory just like Denmark did. You guys can rule over yourselves. That's fine. But we need, access to the natural resources, and we can work out a deal when it comes to extracting the natural resources and the percentage that each country gets and things like that. But the United States is taking most because we're going to have to invest most into actually mining the resources themselves. So that's what's really going on here. Not a joke anymore. U.S. lawmakers greenlight Trump bid for Greenland. That was the House GOP, I believe, that came out and said, yeah, we're drafting it. It's happening. We're getting it together. And this is totally bipartisan. There are Democrats that say, yes, I hate Trump, but this is smart. This should have happened a while ago. The only liberals that are really against it are the really rabid socialists who just hate themselves and hate the United States and want our country to be given back up to Native Americans. I'm not kidding. So those are the only ones that really hate this idea. You can see Trump is fixated on Greenland, a vast Arctic island with massive resource potential. That's a nice headline. I like that from CNBC. He is fixated, and they do have massive resource potential. Absolutely, that is true. Early estimates say it's about $5 trillion in natural resources. Now, you're not going to be able to get all of that because a lot of it's under glaciers, but with the climate getting warmer, you're going to be able to mine some of that. And this, for Trump, this is number one for Trump. I mean, people are like, well, what about America first? And what about you need this territory. It's very important. I mean, this is going to make all of our lives easier. It's going to help us so massively in terms of just the natural resource potential. And when you influx the natural resources and make the country richer as a whole, that can help everybody with taxes and things like that. So Greenland is, for Trump, I mean, it's a huge get if he can get it, even just as a territory, which it's going to be a territory. It just cannot be a state. It doesn't have the population. Not that it matters too much, but it will be a territory. And it is a big thing. And this is something that's going to help the country. And I don't even think it's going to cost that much. People, liberals saying, oh, it's going to cost $1 trillion. Well, now Denmark has basically no leverage to negotiate anything. The Greenlanders don't even want to be part of, Danish rule. And so what's probably going to happen is they're going to be independent, and the United States negotiates directly with Greenland saying, we're going to play hard to get. We don't want to be a part of the United States. We want to do a deal with you because we know we cannot operate without the help of a Western country. Just look at what the subsidies that Denmark had to give Greenland. It's about like 33% of their GDP, or like 25% is from just money from Denmark to keep them afloat because they're so, secluded with their location. And it is basically an island. It's just a massive island. The reference point was like 3 times or 2 times the size of Texas. I think 3 times the size of Texas. It's a big country, but it's not as big as it looks on the map. Not that it matters too much, but just to put that in perspective. So we'll have to see if this ends up happening. I do think that, again, Greenland will play hard to get. They want to separate from Denmark and have that independence to be able to negotiate themselves and get what they want from the United States. And it might take a little bit of bribing, but certainly there is something that can be done when you've only got a population of 56, 57,000 people. You have a vote. If the majority, after some nudging from the United States on how this could be good, because the United States really hasn't even stated its case why the people of Greenland should want to join the U.S. We haven't even done that yet, and they're still saying buy us, and that's really just a national security thing, which really, national security, if I'm Greenland, it's not right now a huge pressing problem. Now, it could become a problem depending on what happens with some of the Eastern powers and also the climate changing. But right now, based on where they're located in between Europe and the United States, it's not a huge thing. Although if you are them and you do get independence from Denmark, you are going to need some type of relationship, whether it's with the European countries or with the United States. I'm sure they want to do it with the United States because we're the most powerful by far. And obviously Trump wants to do something as well. It's kind of like helping both. And what Denmark or what Greenland is saying, look, you've already got a military base here. You can pretty much do whatever you want. But we want to be independent. And Trump is saying, well, no, you're going to be under the U.S. umbrella because this is a legacy thing for Trump, as well as just being able to have complete access to mine anywhere in Greenland. That's reasonable, obviously, but if it's a U.S. territory, it's a lot easier to do that rather than Greenland still being independent. Although Greenland, they understand they have to, especially if they do get independence from Denmark, they do have to be very, very nice to the United States because they are going to be reliant on the United States or another European country. But I would imagine the United States, because we have the most money, it makes the most sense to partner with us. And it just comes down to this thing. Well, they want to be independent from Denmark, but then they also want help from the United States, but they don't want the United States to have them as a territory. But Trump, I think, can coax it in and get the citizens on board. And some of them already are. Even if it's just 30 to 35% on board with being part of the United States, it's once you're able to, once you state your case and say, I mean, you could technically just give these people money, or, I mean, very easy, because it's just such a small population. And that's why it's so much easier than doing something like annexing Canada. So much easier. The canal is just it's a zone. It's not even, we're not talking about annexing Panama. But that's what I would say in terms of Greenland. I do think it will be a territory. The people of Greenland, it looks like some of them want it. Now, I would like to see some more polls and stuff like that. But again, this is before the U.S. is really stating their case. Seems like Greenland first wants to get out of the under the rule of Denmark, which is already very loose. They signed some type of agreement in 2009, which basically, I mean, they are still technically owned by Denmark. And if this was a different time period, I'm sure Denmark would be digging their getting very angry and saying, no, we're not giving them up without getting something in return. But based on the power structure with the United States, Denmark, and Greenland, it kind of seems like Denmark might try and do some type of deal, get something for it, but I don't know what they're really going to get for Greenland, especially if the people of Greenland, as it's shown, like 70% of them want to be free from Denmark. And if that's the case in 2025, it's hard to say, well, if you are Denmark, you just don't really have the power and influence to say, no, you're staying under the umbrella of us, and we're going to sell you. I mean, they might try and do that, because if you are Denmark, ideally, and this is Denmark, they totally misplayed their hand. I mean, they should have seen, and this has been going on for a while, Greenland does want independence from Denmark in 2019. The United States wants to buy it. That's a very valuable plot of land. We own it. We're Danish, and you're going to have to give us 40 or 50 billion dollars for it. And that's going to help our, their GDP is like 420 billion. You're getting like 10-15% of your GDP off of selling Greenland, which you're really not utilizing, and you're giving them money anyway so they can stay afloat. So they misplayed their hand and laughed at Trump, which it's just so stupid. Like, the United States is 300 times more powerful than you. What are you laughing at? I mean, that's why it makes sense for the United States to acquire this country. And also the limited population. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But either way, guys, that is the current situation here. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.